Curls, chin-ups, sandbag carries, pull-ups, battle ropes, rope climbing, heavy bag training, wrestling, rock climbing, tree climbing, planche training, lifting unusual objects. All of these things are either explicitly biceps exercises or they heavily involve the biceps. And as you can see, many of these things are movements that we might actually find ourselves using outside of the gym. And yet the biceps are often accused of being muscles that are just for show. Curls are vanity exercises with no real benefits beyond targeted hypertrophy. Right? Well, wrong actually, and it's kind of ironic that this comes from the same people who obsess over how much they can bench press. It's compound, don't you know? Don't get me wrong, I actually really like bench pressing, but if I had to say which exercise has more functional carryover, I'd go for curls. Sorry. And now I'm going to try and convince you of the same thing. Guys, the aim of this channel is to help you train all your different capacities at once, in a way that has real benefit outside of the gym. But we also need to look beyond strength and endurance and other aspects of fitness. We need to look at the rest of our lives. If you're training well but you're not considering your cybersecurity, then you're leaving yourself vulnerable to malicious actors, no matter how good your roundhouse kick is. That's why I'm happy to present today's sponsor, Incogni. Unfortunately, more and more companies these days have gotten into the habit of storing our personal information and, in some cases, selling it on to third parties. Sometimes that data gets leaked, and that puts us at serious risk of not just targeted marketing, but also identity theft or hacking attempts. This is something I'm taking increasingly seriously lately. I've actually just switched to Linux, partly for that reason.
So who are these jokers? They're called ComScore, never heard of them. It says that they're a medium severity risk, not cool. And in terms of compliance, it says they're resistant, meaning they make it difficult for my data to be removed. That's not okay. Screw these guys. It's just nice to know that someone's going to keep pestering them.
Thankfully, Incogni does this for you, and it will sweep the web on your behalf, issuing removal requests to have your personal information taken out of databases. You can actually see this happening in the app, and it offers peace of mind knowing you're just that little bit safer from attack. It's also about the principle of the thing though. I've not heard of half these companies, and I do not give them permission to store my data, so why should they? To try it out, use the link down below and code BIONEER for 60% off. Thanks so much to Incogni for sponsoring this video, and now on with the show. I use my biceps every time I carry my children, which I do a lot. To do that, you need your arms bent, which means you're going to be maintaining an isometric contraction in the biceps. In fact, anything you carry is going to involve at least an isometric contraction in the biceps, unless you're carrying it with your arms completely straight in front of you. And even then, you're using your biceps tendons. More on that in a moment. And this becomes even more true when you start trying to lift really heavy objects off the ground that aren't designed as training implements, that aren't barbells or dumbbells. You can lift a barbell easy enough with no need to bend your arms, but now try lifting a heavy log off the floor without involving your biceps. It's almost impossible, because you can't fit your hands around most logs. You're instead going to have to roll the object onto your hands so that it becomes a kind of Zercher deadlift, and you'll need plenty of forearm strength for this too. To then lift the log, you'll be maintaining that isometric contraction and likely also performing a slight curl to get the log into position. And the same goes for flipping tyres. You shouldn't be curling the tyres when you do this, but of course there will be some biceps involvement. Again, all these functional lifts require strong biceps. This is what real functional strength involves. Multiple energy systems, multiple muscle groups, all working in tandem in different ways. The core bracing unevenly to support the lopsided weight, the hamstrings and glutes firing to lift the weight, and the biceps maintaining an isometric contraction. Lots of tiny little contractions to help you balance and readjust the position. You see, it's not that biceps aren't functionally useful. Of course they are. The problem is that the clinical straight lines of the gym are a little too convenient for us to need to use our full functional strength. And this is why I say that to really challenge your strength, you need to get outside and lift something strange. That is to weight training what sparring is to bag work. Speaking of, how am I claiming that the biceps help with boxing or hitting a heavy bag? Clearly biceps are used for wrestling, as you pull the opponent and attempt to hold them in position and apply pressure. But punching? While the triceps, pec, core, hips and shoulders all contribute more to throwing out a punch, it's the lats and the biceps that are responsible for whipping it back. This is important for translating maximum force and for preventing the arm from getting trapped, and it also allows you to then rotate the core in the opposite direction. The bicep also, therefore, plays a role in protecting the elbow from impact should you miss the target and lock out the arm. We all know that biceps play a role in doing chin-ups and pull-ups, but this also means they are important for climbing anything, including a rock face. Again, the aim with rock climbing, if you're doing it, like a sport, is not to overly rely on the biceps, but they are still heavily involved, especially during a move like a dyno. This all goes double for climbing a rope. Finally, biceps are important for a lot of calisthenics and gymnastics movements. Not only your various pull-up and muscle-up variations, not only for rings, but also for straight arm movements. That means things like the planche, which requires the arms to be completely locked out. This places a huge strain on the biceps tendon, meaning you need to dedicate training to being able to pull off this awesome feat. I'm still working towards my straddle planche, and boy do you feel it in the biceps. While this is more about tendon strength than bicep strength, you will find that bicep training carries over to some degree, and likewise, planche training offers significant bicep hypertrophy. That's why gymnasts have those big biceps. And once you have that straight arm strength, it can translate to other things, like lower risk of biceps tear during a heavy deadlift. So the biceps are not just for show. In fact, they're highly useful for a wide range of activities. More so than many other muscle groups even. And let's be honest, they look awesome. That is a function. The biceps are one of the few muscles you actually get to show off when you're dressed. The next question then is how to train your biceps. The good news is you can do this using all the activities I just listed and by using bicep curls. That's right, the curl itself is actually a very useful movement. Not only do curls directly mimic the way that you use your arms when lifting and carrying lots of things, like bags of shopping, especially if you perform them standing up, but they also provide isolated resistance for the target muscle. What's more is that using bicep curls like a bodybuilder, that's with higher rep ranges and potential intensity techniques such as drop sets, will help you to develop strength endurance. This is important because it means you're developing the ability to express strength through the biceps for an extended period. And again, this is precisely how you need to use them when outside of the gym. You don't lift something up once, you carry things or you repeatedly move your body. So what I like to do is these big mechanical drop sets. That means that I'm going to perform the curls, usually starting with curls to failure, and then as soon as I can't do any more curls on that weight, what I'll do is I'll switch to a slight variation of the movement. Usually it's hammer curls, and then I'll perform those until I can't do any more of those, and then often I'll even switch to cheat hammer curls. I'm using a bit of momentum from my legs to get the weight up. You can also do this just as a regular drop set where you drop down the weight and keep going. This not only allows you to maintain tension in the bicep for a long period of time, it also allows you to fatigue as many of the muscle fibers as possible. It creates loads of muscle damage. Some people claim that bodybuilding muscle isn't real muscle because the muscle is large without being as strong as a powerlifter or an Olympic lifter. But the truth is that the muscle is larger because it prioritizes strength endurance, still with a fair bit of strength. The body doesn't grow biceps for kicks and giggles. All adaptations have a purpose. So yeah, if I was moving house, then I would certainly be happy asking the bodybuilder with 20-inch biceps to help me move. And this is why bodybuilding itself is functional. But you should know that by now. I think all training is functional, whether you're a powerlifter, a yogi, or a runner. The only way it becomes unfunctional is when that's all you're doing, to the detriment of your mobility, or your cardio, or your strength in other areas. It's not what you're doing that's the problem, it's what you're not doing. So if you are looking for a training program that attempts to build a balanced performance profile that includes strength, mobility, endurance, then why not check out my ebook and training program, Super Functional Training 2.0. It comes with over 2 hours of instructional video and an 85+ page ebook. Link in the description. Either way guys, thank you so much for watching and I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.